Call the Village of Johnsburg, January 19th, 2016, regular meeting of the President of the Board of Trustees to order at 7:01.
On the roll, Trustee Hutchinson,
Here.
Trustee Curry, no, Trustee Frost, here, Trustee Heeman, here, Trustee Curry, here, and Trustee McAvoy. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody, besides Mr. Keel, want to address the board? Mr. Keel?
Okay, last week, the zoning board recommended that this variance not be allowed. I would hope the trustees take that into consideration when they're going through their, I know it's the first reading, they'll vote for it next time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Move to approve the omnibus agenda. Have a motion? Motion by Trustee Hutchinson, seconded by Trustee Frost. Discussion on the motion. Discussion on the
Make sure I'm
motion.
clear on this.
There's something on the poll, Jack?
25 and 26 are those are what we discussed last meeting.
About the fines for burning and about the
the fencing around.
Correct.
Yes.
okay.
Containers.
And I don't have the backup information for the one that had about the shooting range. Can I?
That's not on here for approval. As a matter of fact, that's why you're appointing the special zone commission to look into it further.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Glenn. I'm good.
You don't want to poll anything? Any further discussion? Trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Trustee Curry? Aye. Trustee Heeman? Aye. Trustee Frost?
Aye.
Trustee Hutchinson?
Aye.
Motion carried. One thing I want to mention to everybody that our sewer committee will be meeting the first week in March to discuss the sewer hookup timelines. There's been a lot of concern about it, and especially with their new avenue. I think that we're not in violation of the ordinance, but the ordinance is not really clear. So I think we got to come up with a clarification of what we're going to do.
And the
as
ordinance
far as
is the one that requires some timeframe to hook up? No?
No, the ordinance.
It requires them to hook up within so much time period of being notified of the need. That's what
Of the notification.
Right.
So we're really not in violation, but
We should provide
we
clarification.
should clarify a timeframe, I think, especially if we're going to be financing some of these projects. We got to have a certain amount that we're going to only finance it for so long.
So that will come before us again?
Pardon me?
That will come before us again?
Definitely. Yep. That'd be a long discussion. Okay. First three, no action. Move to approve ordinance 15-16-28, granting a variance to section 12.4-3.4 of the Johnsburg zoning ordinance for property commonly known as Radicon property 2604, Chapel Hill, Johnsburg, Illinois. I'm sure everybody has the zoning board minutes and has read them. Is there any other discussion that you need answers on?
I was just going to wonder, I was wondering, Phil, do you have a graphic to show where that structure is going to?
I don't, I presented a complete package.
We have it.
Oh, we do?
I can pass it down, though. I got your package.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Looks like we got it.
It'll be at the back of the parking lot, on that back lot, or backyard of our property,
Yeah.
where all those, where the dump trucks and semis are. All of that stuff will be gone. and the building will be there.
Okay. Just for storage of your bucket truck?
Pardon?
For storage of your bucket truck?
Our bucket truck and our spare vehicle and some material.
What's the height of your building?
16 feet. We need a 14-foot door for the bucket truck.
Have any neighbors from the south side approached you about this with any suggestions?
From the south side, not. We sent them all letters.
Mm-hmm.
We had one visitor from the north side.
But it
who was
didn't affect you, really?
complimentary.
Right.
Made me feel kind of good.
He was happy to see the stuff go
Yeah.
inside
Yes.
instead of being
Said that, right.
outside.
Yes. Our ba-
Colors will match, kind of, the existing building with the tan sides and the dark brown roof and trim. Okay. And brown doors.
Any other further discussion or concerns that, anything you want us to find out about that would bother anybody by the time?
My main concern was whether or not the neighbors were concerned about the screening, and obviously that's been settled.
Our neighbors to the south, we've kept the foliage. There's a tree line between us and the south neighbors. We have intentionally kept that intact to protect them. And on the north side, we don't have that same protection, but just the cleaning up, if you saw the package that we provided, just cleaning up the backyard will make that 100% better than it is.
Is this a new bucket truck or something you've
We
already?
bought it 2 years ago,
It's been sitting outside?
and it's been sitting outside, and it drives me crazy.
Mhm.
It's a very expensive vehicle, and the weather is taking its toll on it. We only use it in the spring and summer to do tornado sirens. That's its main purpose.
Any other concerns?
I'm good.
Okay. If there being none, we'll have that on the next meeting for final approval.
May we won't be here. We're leaving for Florida. It's not for lack of interest, and I offered to have my son here to answer any questions that may come up, but I was told probably that wouldn't be necessary. But we will have him here if you want.
I don't think does anybody have any concern that,
I'm gonna be with you, so.
Thank you.
I think the zoning board notes were helpful.
yeah. Okay. I don't think there's any reason for this.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is first read, no action. Move to approve ordinance 15-16-29, amending ordinance -04-05-29 to remove the restriction on rental units for Phase 3 Remington Grove of Johnsburg subdivision. And if you read the minutes of the zoning and planning hearing, it was quite extensive. But, Mr. Brown, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Brown, I'm with the petitioner, GWF Johnsburg. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. We had a lengthy discussion, and it really centered around two questions that a lot of the homeowners who were here had, and certainly things that we've considered. That was, would this mean subsidized or tax credit units, and would it have an adverse impact on property values? To my mind, the clear answer is no and no. When I say rental units, I'm talking about market rents, looking at townhome style properties that rent in the area. They rent in the $1,400 to $1,500 a month range. Using some common metrics for rental and income, it puts a higher income demographic in a rental unit than in that unit if it were sold at market, because with just one building up, it would be sold at what I think is clearly going to be a distressed price. As to the impact on value, you know, I think it's a drag right now on that property, its future development. If you think about two townhomes for sale, one that has the restriction, one that doesn't, if a buyer's looking at one, which one are they gonna buy? Or if they do buy the one with the rental restriction, they're gonna discount it to some extent. It is a unique restriction, I think, in the village, probably the best direct comparable. The townhomes at Rainbow Farm don't have a similar restriction. And so we just want to level the playing field so that when the economics do support new construction, that there's not an impediment to getting it done.
So the intent, is it to sell these with granting the ability that they could then turn around and lease them? Or is the intent to just build these out and rent as rental units?
There is no intent to build anything today. The reality is that market values of those units probably between 90 and 120, assuming that you had a project that were running. You can't cover reproduction costs with that. That doesn't cover reproduction costs to build them and sell them, or to build them and rent them. So really what we're looking to do is to deal with both elements of the property. There's a 6-unit building that's there, that's been vacant since Remington vacated the project in 2008 or thereabouts. They had operated it as a model and a sales center. Having a vacant property at the front door of the community is not a good thing, I think, for the homeowners or for the village. I think we didn't agree on everything at the zoning meeting. I think that was one thing that we could agree on. So as we looked at it, being able to rent that 6-unit building today is a better option than trying to sell it. That doesn't mean that it won't be for sale down the road, but right now it's going to run faster, and I think produce an occupant at a higher income demographic than it would if we took those 6 units and brought them to market and let the market tell us where they should sell. As to the balance of the property, you know, right now it is a PD, so there are 8 units that are approved for that property. And those are the only 8 units that are allowable on the property unless it comes back through the village's process. Whether economic conditions, when they turn around, support for rent or for sale, I'd be speculating to say. We just want to allow the units that have been approved to be rented, and then let the market guide when the time is appropriate. We do feel very strongly that it is an impediment to the development of that project, to being able to sell individual units there with that restriction. And while we recognize that this is an emotional issue for homeowners, they're concerned about value. We're concerned about value too. We own a lot of property in that community. We're going to continue to own a lot of property in that community. And values impact the homeowners just as much as they impact us, just as much as they impact the homeowners. We wouldn't be before you today to request this if we thought it would have an adverse impact on value.
When you totally build that section out, how many units do we talk, 179 or something?
No, the townhome section was approved for 83 units.
83.
So with the 6-unit building built, there are 77 additional units that are planned to be built on that area.
I read where in the minutes of the zoning board that you cited the market conditions have changed and that young people are holding off and waiting to buy single-family homes. So are you considering looking at some other type of unit there besides townhomes in the future?
Well, at present, no. Young people, I think the target market is what it always has been there. It would be young people who grew up in the area who want to stay in the area. I think for that existing 6-unit building, that those are the people that if the restriction is removed and we're allowed to rent it, those would be the tenants. Those would have been the people who would likely have bought it before the crash. And I think a lot of the discussion about people postponing buying had to do with some of the millennials, the 20-somethings. And I've got a couple of my own, and nobody is buying anything or looking to buy anything. I think there were some people on the commission that shared that experience. So single family, especially a 2-story single family, has its own issues today. We are currently building one now in the community. It's going to be sold at market rents. It's a little bit of an unusual circumstance where many of the trades are donating time or materials, and when it's sold, proceeds over the cost are going to be donated to a charity, Folds of Honor, which is a charity that supports veterans' families with educational and housing expenses. It's not a house that's going to be donated to a veteran, but rather the entire profit is going to be donated to that organization. So I think that'll give us a good read on what the market value is for a 2-story home.
Where's that?
It's on Aubrey, just towards the north end as you head up towards that dead end. It's actually next to the ranch that we've had for sale now for a couple of months.
Is that the foundation that's been there a long time?
Yes, it is.
To be clear, I just want to make sure, I know Mary Lou asked the question, I don't know if I got the answer that your intent is to keep ownership of this property long term?
Our intent is to have a profitable endeavor. Now, whether that means that we build it out when the time is right, or whether we sell it, at this point, we would be receptive to either. I mean, this is a business venture for us. Certainly, the market to sell it to a third party right now is not very deep. So we have looked at what it would take to build it out ourselves. It's something that I've done, we've all done in our backgrounds. I know what it takes. It's a big endeavor, and unfortunately today the market doesn't support that. When it will, I think we look at all options.
Where is demographically, where is the closest area where you've seen this change in the townhomes going from owner-occupied to rentals? What communities where you've seen a big surge in that? Close by us, are they closer in towards the city, or is it in?
Well, I know in Algonquin, where the old Tyvek acres that they call
Tyvek Tower?
Yeah, they made that transition.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that this is going to become a rental community. I think in some of the discussion there was kind of a leap from removing the restriction on rental to saying that it was going to be a rental community, and that certainly isn't what we're suggesting today. When you can't cover reproduction costs, it's not going to get built. But as far as I know, it's the only townhome community that has a restriction on rental. And in a for-sale environment, someone who would buy a unit then has less flexibility if and when their circumstances change, they want to move on.
What I was trying to get at, though, is the trend. I can certainly see the trend going in towards this, right up in the city and the close suburbs to the city. I can see that happening. I'm just wondering, in McHenry County, and Kevin brought up this Tyvek thing, I think that was kind of like a fire sale thing, that they had to do something with it and it'd be marketed in a different way. But I'm just wondering if the philosophy that rentals are really grabbing hold in McHenry County is as strong as it is in Northwest Cook,
Well, I can't give you a comparison, but I can tell you that looking at rental versus sale, there's currently a 1.3 month supply of townhomes on the market to rent.
And where is that market at?
Well, it's in Area 50 on the MLS, which is Johnsburg, McHenry, McCullum Lake, Ringwood.
What was that?
There are currently 8 units listed for rent, townhome style units listed for rent. There have been 34 that have been rented within the last 6 months. So that's 1.4 months. In terms of townhomes for sale in the same area, there are currently 22 listed for sale, and there have been 21 sold in the last 6 months. So that's a 6.3 month supply. So,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So there's a faster absorption of the units to rent than there is.
Do you have any data supporting what the rents are on those units?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the MLS.
That is the number that you submitted on to the zoning board is the number that these units are renting for, the ones that...
Yeah, the MLS, the data, I'm only picking up information that's in the MLS, but they're showing a range of rental rates, and townhome units are renting in the $1,400 to $1,500 a month range.
Thank you.
Now, the rental restriction, you're not asking that to be listed on just the 6 units you have there now. You're asking for anything that builds out after that also to be listed, correct?
That's correct, yes. Because it gets us all the way there. If the restriction stays on, in my view, the balance of the property as a for-sale townhome development is less attractive. And when the market changes, I think it's going to change quickly. And we want to be positioned to take advantage of it. With being the only community that I'm aware of that has this restriction, if it's not removed, I think we're going to be delayed in dealing with this property when the market changes.
John, in McHenry, Patriot Estates, which is owned by QNet, that was originally decided to be a townhome development in the
That's one by Holy Apostle.
correct, okay. They have some condos up in front, and they have townhouses in the back. They have single families to the west. Okay, it's my understanding that since there is no market for the townhouses, that QNet is building out the townhouses to rent them. So what was originally planned
as a for sale right now because of the lack of sales. So you want something close that's doing, to my understanding, you're going to put 55 units in there this year. Now, I don't know what their rents are going to be, but that basically now has become a rental community within McHenry.
That just sounds like something what the homeowners don't want, is a rental community. And I'm listening to the gentleman present his dilemma, so he's looking for some relief, competitive advantage relief that he feels the other properties have over him. But whatever relief that would be considered, I don't think it would be to turn it into a rental community, like that you're
Patriot
referencing.
Estates, yeah.
Right, referencing.
The single family and the,
No, just
No.
townhouses, just building up the townhouses.
just the townhomes?
Shows there's a market for it, though.
So what do we have to do?
One question, Claudette, just for Claudette, or ordinance people. In regards to the stigma that rental properties have always had is they're not maintained as well as owner occupied. That's whether or not that's true or not. That's, I think, the overall feeling that people that aren't used to being near or adjacent to rental properties have that feeling. And I guess the question is, in the event that we end up, well, let's just say what the protections that are in place to make sure that properties are maintained properly as far as, garbage containers and people's materials outside in the yard and yada, 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 and so on and so on. Is that done through the Property Owners Association, or is that done through village ordinance?
Well, that would depend. I mean, anything that's a violation of our nuisance ordinance would apply to a rental property, no different than it would apply to an owner-occupied property.
Would the items that I talked about, items like bicycles left all over in the yard and,
I think that's a stretch. I don't think if you do that in a single-family home, you couldn't tell somebody they can't have their children leave their...
if it's perceived as being not taken care of, I mean, I know that's hard to define.
Right.
Yes, we do
From an
not
ordinance
have,
perspective.
we do not have the tidy police.
Yeah. So, that's a fair, that's an honest answer.
Yeah.
Keep that, right.
I mean, if it's junk or has no value beyond its original purpose, then it's junk and then it's actionable under the ordinance.
So are there lawns that would be maintained by these people, or is that done by a HOA, or how does that work?
Well, it would be done by us as the owner.
The apartment management company.
Right. There would not need to be a homeowners association here because the ownership and the maintenance would be combined, they wouldn't be separate. So we think that, actually there's some protections that come from screening, from making sure that everything is subject to the village's crime-free ordinance. And as an owner, we share your concerns, have just as much concern about making sure that it's well maintained, looks nice. I think some of the discussion that came up at the zoning meeting relates to one particular rental in the single-family area where there's a combination of, I think, some police issues as well as some nuisance issues. In terms of the non-police public safety issues, I've suggested to the single-family board that an appropriate way to deal with that might be through rules and regs that impose monetary fines on the property owner. I understand that they're absent and unresponsive, but perhaps some financial repercussions would get their attention. Here, as the property owner, we'd be able to do that monitoring and enforce the standards that we want to see.
The property owner might not necessarily be you.
Well, at present, it is, and it's not for sale, unless you'd like to make us a reasonable offer.
All I'm getting at is, we know you, we understand you, and we're dealing with somebody that...
Yeah, can I tell you that wouldn't sell this down somewhere down the road? No, I can't tell you.
Right.
But any property owner, any good property owner is going to have the same outcome. You want to make sure that the property is well maintained so that you can rent it for whatever the maximum amount that the market will bear.
Would you be lowering the rent if you were having a hard time filling all these apartments?
If you have a hard time filling them, obviously it's the market telling you that your rent could be too high. It's not another issue.
Well, I mean, if the market tells you come in 14, 15 and you're not selling, you would go down to get people in there, right?
There's a level at which it probably isn't worthwhile to do that, but, if we had to go to 1350, would we do that? Yeah, we probably would. But I feel, very comfortable looking at that range. These are big units, and actually, one of the things that I looked at was rent per square foot, which is a common standard, and I really discounted the rent per square foot from that in the MLS, because these units are bigger on average than those units. So I think the fact that they're bigger is going to make them more attractive, and the fact that absolute rent is in that $1,400 or $1,500 square foot range, I feel comfortable with.
If you'd lower the rents, it would be unlikely that you'd build more buildings, right?
I'm sorry?
I mean, if the rents would go down, like Kyle's saying, okay, and you couldn't rent them at the price that you're saying, at, $1 a square foot, it'd be very unlikely that you'd want to build any more buildings, because if you can't.
Well, even at that $1,400 or $1,500 a square foot, I mean, at least from the numbers we ran, I looked at it, it doesn't support building new buildings to rent today. The reproduction cost of those units is higher than the price you would get to sell them or to rent them.
So is there anything that we need to, I know, John, you got a few things that you want to find out that you wrote down. Is there anything we're going to need to make a decision at the next meeting?
Jeff, are you going to be able to attend the next meeting at that point?
Yes, I will, and if you'd like me to share some of the data that I pulled from the MLS, I mean, I can certainly do that and forward it to Claudette to distribute.
I'm going to do some research about this Patriot Estates rents and see how they're moving and what the rents are going forward.
Yeah, but certainly, whatever information I've gathered, I'm very, very willing to, to provide and share with you.
Okay, thank you.
So is there any other consideration that you were thinking of in terms of a solution for this problem right now, like a temporary time frame to rent out this building until the market turns around and then build them out for sale again?
Well,
Any of those other scenarios thrown around?
We looked at a lot of things and considered something temporary. Something temporary doesn't really address the issue of bringing it to market as a for-sale project when other competing projects don't have it. So I tend to split it into the two components, the existing building and the balance of the property. But when we got all through looking at it, we really felt that this solution was the best course for both the 6-unit building and for the balance of the property.
Do we know what's happened in those other examples in town that have that ability to rent? Do we know what's occurred there?
No, we wouldn't know.
They've sold out? I mean, are they all sold?
Oh, I don't think they're built yet. The ones Rick was talking about?
No, she's like,
Running
for example,
Brook.
Running Brook Farm.
Running Brook Farm.
Oh, okay.
I believe all the units, not all the vacant properties are built out of townhomes, but as far as I know, the townhomes
There's
are.
still quite a bit of land in Running Brook Farm.
But I mean, what's there?
The existing
Yes,
sold.
yes.
Has been sold.
Well, it's been sold, they've occupied. I can't tell you if there's
Right.
renters or.
But I think there's, last time I drive through there a lot, it is probably the best comparable. It's the other project came online about the same time as city or village sewer and water. There's a lot of vacant townhome pads in there, and I think it's confirmation that owner is seeing the same thing that we are, that economically it's not viable to build a new building today. And whether, there they don't have a restriction, so they could build a building and advertise it strictly as a for-rent building. They're not doing it, the market hasn't turned. When the market does turn, in the past, it's turned quickly. And my concern is that we'll be lagging because we'll be dealing with this restriction and miss an opportunity or not be able to participate in the market turn when it happens.
The market turns, wouldn't it be good for sales as well as rentals?
Yes, I would anticipate that both would be good. And historically, you know, historically, for at least most of what I've done, you know, we're for sale people by background. We're not rental people. Many rental properties that are designed and built from the ground up to be rentals aren't done in townhome-style buildings. They're done in a different configuration. I think some of the things that have happened now have been individual unit owners that have felt it was better to rent than it was to try and sell that unit. And then, you know, some things where, you know, if someone else has got an ability to build them and run them and do it profitably, you know, God bless them. I can't do that. But
I even think that Rick's comparison with Liberty Trails is a bad comparison.
Patriot Estates?
Yeah, well, size of units. That's more of a coach house, the three-level thing, isn't it, with the garage underneath? It isn't the typical conventional townhouse where you have the garage out front. It's the garage underneath the front door on the other side of the building. It's really not a, I don't know, I would call that a good comparison as far as what Jeff is building in size of unit and what we have approved, you know? I mean, they're smaller units to begin with.
Right, they're smaller units,
They're low-rent units.
And the reality is, because, Ed, and you've experienced this yourself, is the younger people go in and they buy these townhouses, then they're ready to move up to a single-family house, they try to sell the townhouse, then sometimes they're upside down, and they end up renting it anyway. So, like, the reality is sometimes the rentals happen anyway. Once somebody buys it new, there's still going to be rental pieces around, and the village doesn't have a rental police that goes and polices that either. I mean, otherwise, how do you enforce it? Once the secondary person buys it and then is stuck with it, then they rent it because they can't sell it.
the units here, there were 8 units. There are 8 units that are approved. There's a single ranch unit that's about 1,250 square feet, and then there are 7 two-story designs that range from about 1,650 square feet to just over 2,000 square feet. So,
in your analysis, is there a, or I don't know if you've even done this, is there a townhome over rent?
Is there a sweet spot number that those kids finally hit and they can't hit it, and that's why they say I want to go rent?
yeah, I don't have a quantification for that. I mean, I think I can just tell you, anecdotally, that what I've heard from some is that their concern is, if I buy a townhome, which, I mean, it used to be townhomes were the entry-level product for young buyers, and they planned on living in the townhome for a couple of years and then selling it, and it was time to move to a single-family home. I think today, as they look at the market, they're questioning whether they can sell it readily, and at what price do they recover their costs. So, what I read in the in the builder literature is that they're postponing purchasing anything, choosing to live. Now, sometimes they're choosing to live in in more urban environments, not necessarily Chicago, but a lot of the collar suburbs, Arlingtonites have some high-rise things, and they get a little bit of that nightlife and an easy commute downtown.
Right.
But when they postpone it, then they're buying later, and when they buy later, if they're in a better economic position, then often they're buying the preferred option, which is a single-family home. So the townhome as that entry-level step has diminished in popularity. But I can't put a number as to where that breaking point is. I just think, from what I hear, that a lot of those young people don't want to lock themselves into ownership right now.
Mm-hmm. Would a rental management company be used, or would you manage it directly?
A management company would be used. I could manage it. I'm a licensed realtor in Illinois, but certainly a management company would be used. We'd be and let's just talk about the 6-unit building, because I think our opinion is that if this restriction is removed, it's a better option today to rent that building than to sell it. We really would be focused on screening to establish three things. Can they pay, which is to verify income? Will they pay, which is to look at their payment history in the past? And will they be good neighbors? And that relates to, the criminal background check. There would be a, credit check and a criminal background check done on them. And, with those things, I think we'd have a very good handle on identifying and putting in good quality neighbors for that unit.
I think I saw something in here, there was a question asked about whether or not we are going to be able to, or anybody's able to, restrict the amount of residents in a unit. Can't do it, right?
I can do it.
You can do it.
If I'm, as a landlord, you can restrict the lease, and leases typically identify the residents that are permitted to occupy that unit. I did do rental in a unit on the North Shore. It was a townhome style building that we finished, it got rehab. So you identify who's going to be in there, and you can, there's a lot of things that, the HUD has where you can't discriminate, but one of the things that you can do is to set guidelines, you have to adhere to them, about the number of people, and it's usually based on so many people per bedroom. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mr. Keel.
Jeff, you mentioned at the meeting that you were thinking of downsizing the sizes of the units.
Well, I think what I said about downsizing, that wasn't quite that. What I did say was that if you were going to bring something to market today, these are big units, okay? If I were planning to bring for-sale townhome units to market today, I'm not sure I would do units this big. However, that said, if I wanted to do smaller units, I have to come back to the village and go through the plan development process.
Okay. Any more questions for Jeff?
One quick question, did you try to sell these at all yet, or no?
We have not listed them for sale yet. Once we sell one, then it's a for-sale community. That would trigger forming an association, setting assessments. It would be difficult to sell one. Once one is sold, you can't really back off of that. Then it's going to be a fish, not a fowl. Whereas in a scenario where that 6-unit building is rented initially, it certainly could be sold down the road, probably in conjunction with the additional development of the property.
Thank you.
Is there anything that any of you can think of that we need from Mr. Brown to bring forward to help us make a decision at the next meeting? Any other information other than what we have from...
So we will be voting on this at the next meeting, is that correct?
Yes. John, you had some questions, but
No, I'm
you're going to do your own
good.
research.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, do my homework.
Okay. All right. Okay, with there being none, we will just have the final vote on that, final read next meeting. Okay. Real quickly, Village Administrator, you have anything you want to grant? Trustee Hutchinson?
I just wanted to mention that I'm meeting with Claudette to update an analysis that we did over a year ago on private roads. And would like to take that to my committee and bring it to the board for discussion in the near future.
Okay. Trustee Cross?
No, I'm good.
Trustee Heem? Trustee Curry?
Skate rink is open and Rusty's going to park, so Saturday, 4 to 7, we're
Skate night?
have our skate night party.
I think that was, I think the time was wrong on that e-blast that went out.
Which time from?
4 to 7, I
4 to
think it's
7.
5 to 8.
It's, okay, this 4 to 7, all right.
Is there gonna be like the double-bladed skates available?
You have to have a buddy, hold hands.
Trustee McAvoy?
Yeah, Public Works is status quo, they're working away up there, and
On winter break is the German goes to Florida?
and, yeah, just talked to Davey today, and managing our salt usage, and we have so much salt we have to take, so we're balancing that.
Well, not through January then.
Yep.
Chief?
I'm all good, thank you.
Mr. Hartnett? All good. Quinn? Counselor?
No comment, Mr. President.
Motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Heem, seconded by trustee McAvoy. On the roll, trustee Hutchinson.
Aye.
Trustee Frost. Trustee Heeman. Trustee Curry. Trustee McAvoy. Meeting adjourned. 48.